Well, stigma is a combination of two things. It's a combination of how other people treat you and how you feel about yourself. So sometimes people treat you as if you're different to everyone else, and sometimes you feel as if there's something wrong with you or something you should be ashamed of. For children in families with HIV, there is nothing to be ashamed of. But unfortunately, that's not how communities sometimes treat them. So the children that we work with, and we're doing research with thousands of children across South Africa whose parents have HIV, they say that they're treated differently, that they're teased, that people in school treat them differently, that they're bullied. They talk about people talking about their parents as if they're prostitutes or promiscuous. And then they talk about great fears that they have, fears that they'll also be infected because they don't understand that they're not infected themselves, and great fears that their parents will die. So there's stigma from inside and from outside for these kids. Well, first I should say that they're amazing kids, generally, and often there's great strength in the families as well. But we ask kids about their daily lives and what they do in their lives. And often kids will tell us that they have an enormous amount of responsibility. So they would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, make sure their parents have their medication, they would wash and cook and clean and make breakfast for the whole family. Then they would get their younger brothers and sisters to school. Quite often they'll miss school because then they'll go back to take the sick person to the hospital, or they'll go to hospital to queue all day to get the medication because the sick person's too ill to queue themselves. And then they'll come back and they'll do all the cooking and cleaning and washing again. So often they have much less time to play or to do their homework. About 40% of them are missing school or dropping out of school. In many ways, I think these kids have enormous responsibilities and enormous unhappiness, but they also have enormous resourcefulness. So we meet kids every day who have a kind of amazing strength to them, and warmth and caring. And we ask these kids what they want to be when they grow up, and so many of them want to be social workers and doctors and nurses, and they're really inspired to help other people in the communities by their life experiences. In many ways, they're hugely admirable, these kids. I think the most important thing we can do is to stop stigma. And it's a huge thing to ask, but we have to just stop. And it will take a huge burden off these kids. They have to be able to talk about it freely at school without worrying that someone will go home and whisper to someone, and that the gossip will get round the community, and that their family will be ignored, or that people will refuse to touch them, parents won't want them in their homes or being friends with their other kids. The three big things that we need to do to make a difference to these kids would be to reduce poverty, make sure they have enough to eat every day, to get rid of stigma and bullying. And the third big thing is to make sure that all their caregivers have antiretrovirals, so that they're not put in this situation in the first place. I think kids have enormous capacity and huge hearts. For example, there's a school in London who came to me and said, could they support a school in South Africa? And I actually picked the school, which is just over there, in Mbasa Primary School. And this school in London is a comprehensive, it's called Camden School for Girls. They're not rich kids there. And they have supported this school for the past 5 years. Every year they send money, they collect donations, they send clothes, they send shoes, and they've really built up a connection and a community with this school in South Africa. And I've been amazed and impressed by how long they've carried this on and how sustained their support is. I think for many kids here, to just know that there was someone else who understood and who wanted to listen to you and cared about your situation can make a huge difference.